Welcome to the Tuesday, February 7th regular council meeting. I'll call this meeting to order with roll call.
Councilmember Brookover.
Here.
Councilmember Garcia.
Here.
Councilmember Watson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gregg.
Here.
Mayor Bacon.
Present. I'll look for approval of the agenda.
So moved. Support.
Is that seconded?
Yeah.
Support.
All right. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'll look for approval of the minutes. Regular council, January 24th, 2023.
I move that we approve the regular council minutes of January 24th, 2023.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All written communication received by council are posted on the online agenda packet. That's all communication received before 4 p.m. Next up, communication from the audience. Daphne Regan.
I'm here just very briefly to talk about extremely loud cars and sideshows. I don't know if sideshows are a phenomenon that you guys are familiar with yet. They're when, in the Bay Area where it's been part of my time, they're when people close off streets so that they can do, illegally with their cars, so that they can do advanced maneuvering around. And once they start, they're extremely hard to get rid of. At least that's been the experience in other places. I think they're having them in Detroit now, but I don't know. So it's come to my attention, and I told the MSU police that there was a sideshow on the Shaw ramp, but there's also very, very loud cars passing through East Lansing, cars that undoubtedly violate the noise ordinance and the Michigan law about noise of cars, which is a civil infraction. I don't think it should be a criminal infraction, but it should be enforced. For example, first of all, they wake people up, which is bad. Secondly, noise pollution has very negative health impacts. And thirdly, when I'm talking to my students on Zoom, we have to fall silent for periods of time while cars pass either their apartment or my office at MSU. So I called the police a number of times about this during the summer and fall. And they said that they couldn't enforce, I don't even know if this is accurate. I'm merely reporting to you what I heard. They couldn't enforce it without a directive from council. So I am here to ask you to make a directive that those, not ordinary cars that are like have a hole in the muffler, but those ones that are aftermarket modifications to make them louder. And also they drive really, really fast because that makes that popping firecracker-like noise. So I was driving up Harrison the other day and this car passed me going at least 50, making all of the noise and firecrackers-like noises and all that. So if it requires a directive from council, I would like to ask you to make such a directive because they're really destroying the tranquility and safety of many people's lives.
I have a question for you. You mentioned Harrison Road. What other roads are you talking about, or streets?
Well, according to
Would you mind coming back to the microphone?
According to friends of mine who live on Saginaw, there's also a massive problem on Saginaw. It mostly happens like after 10 p.m. And then sometimes you can hear them. I can't tell you because sometimes I'm in bed and they're waking me up. But I also know that they pass my students' apartments that are on like Michigan. And then I brought it to the attention, the ones that were at MSU and the sideshow and the Shaw ramp, I brought to the attention of the dean of the law school where I teach and to the Michigan State Police. And he told me that other law students who had not talked to me but had told him that cars are very, very loud cars, and I realize you have no jurisdiction over this, are racing through the Michigan State campus at night, but they're getting there somehow. So they're just not a good, and they create not only are they noisy and wake people up and wake children up and make it impossible to teach over Zoom and go too fast, but they also create this ambiance of not caring about other people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello there. My name is Mark Breedlove. I'm in the Glencairn neighborhood. I'm coming to talk about the 5G towers that are going to be erected, apparently. I'll let my fellow residents know that Crown Castle of Pennsylvania placed a classified ad in the newspaper 2 days after Christmas declaring that they intended to put a tower 4 stories high in front of my house. And even though they printed my address in the newspaper, they showed neither the courtesy nor the professionalism to actually notify us of their intention. I think they didn't want us to know. Well, happily, one of my neighbors saw it, and that's how we know. So this has come up at the city council meeting before, and there are a couple of things that I think were pieces of misinformation that I want to bring to your attention. First of all, I'm aware that they have not yet applied for a permit to install this 4-story high tower in front of my house. But for all I know, they could apply for a permit in the morning and have it backhoe in my front yard before noon. And it also turns out that the city has given them permission to do this work, which will include 50 towers in the city of East Lansing, without their having to have insurance to make sure that there's some coverage in case some damage is done. What we found out at city council meeting before was that city council indicated to me, at least, that the council was helpless to do anything to regulate this process except in historic districts. And yet when I read the city code, I find that not only are historic districts, but also residential districts are ones in which city council can provide a written, rational, reasonable regulation of what these should look like, including ways to mitigate their appearance. Well, Glencairn must be a residential district because the city will not allow us to rent our homes out. So I don't know how it is that city council and the city attorney didn't realize that we too should be covered. And so, in fact, I'm very concerned that the city council seems to be throwing up its hands and pretending that it can't do anything about this process, when in fact, I don't think that's the case. And in other communities, Ann Arbor being an example, have successfully been able to intervene in these processes and to regulate this business. I'll also point out that I don't know what service this is providing. My neighbors and I are perfectly happy with the cell phone service and the internet service we presently have. So why is someone putting a tower that will be twice as tall as a lamppost in front of my house when there's nothing that he provided me that I want? Finally, I'll point out that my neighbors and I are well aware that Crown Castle has scheduled a public meeting on Valentine's Day. The one thing I know about Crown Castle is they like holidays. They have a tendency to that. And so on Valentine's Day, my neighbors and I will be present, and I hope that there'll be a presence of City Council there as well, and we'll have a lot of pointed questions, both for Crown Castle and for City Council. I will tell you that I emailed Crown Castle with many questions about this and received no reply for them, and then had to prompt them with a second email to ask if they would at least acknowledge receiving the email I'd sent them. And instead of answering any of my questions, they basically told me to show up on Valentine's Day and they would have someone here. So I just want to emphasize again that the city is not helpless in regulating this business, is not helpless in making efforts to mitigate the appearance in our neighborhood, is not helpless in terms of doing things to regulate where these get placed. For example, why aren't they on top of existing utility poles? Why aren't they in traffic circles, et cetera? And so I do hope that we'll get, that when we meet about this on February 14th, that in fact, I'll be hearing from a city council that is interested in engaging in this process and is interested in preserving the quality of our neighborhoods. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Public comment?
Honey, do I need to say my name? Nicole Viber. I'm in East Lansing on Blanchette Street. So I was looking at the agenda and I saw the approve the agreement for the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy Recycling and Organics Infrastructure Grant. I was pretty excited. I was like, hey, Organics Infrastructure Grant. Well, I looked at it, and it's, it's a kind of technological proposal to have these machines that kind of compact trash and make styrofoam into something else, which, yeah, that's good. There's a lot of trash around we need to, have some plan for. The part that isn't in there, and I know that the grant only covers what it covers, but it certainly brought to mind how 30 to 40% of our waste in landfills is biological organic materials, food, and leaves. So I thought, hey, I'm going to revisit that issue of the leaves. That's a lot of trucks, which is one of the reasons this grant was looking at, saying we could limit the amount of trucks and petrol and everything that goes. Those are huge piles of leaves, right, every fall. And I'm not sure where they go. I saw it has to do with the DPW, which this grant also affects with the recycling facilities. And again, I bring up these issues in a lot of places, and I feel like the city in particular is pretty receptive to it, but part of the receptivity really needs to be like, let's just take a step in a new direction and realize that we have a lot of opportunities to sort of make what are ultimately small changes, but can make a pretty big difference in a pretty short amount of time. So, there's a committee looking at encouraging No Mow May to give the early pollinators some food. Imagine if that's in conjunction with, hey, if you already realize, like, that was great not to mow so much, maybe you could seed it with some native pollinators. Maybe we can go a step further to leave the leaves. All of these things have real world impacts, and it's interesting that so much of it is just the difference is not doing something. It's not taking resources to gather up these leaves, which all too often, sadly, when I was little, it was with a rake and cool. Now it's often leaf blowers, and talk about noise pollution. I can't think of anything worse. Plus it kicks up a bunch of feces and detritus and all these things, and is a terribly inefficient engine system that is basically not regulated. So you could lessen the need for that. But something like being aware of organic materials and a different relationship to them can save space in landfills, but also with something like leaving the leaves. Again, this is a big impact it could have on lives that are way too little thought of, such as frogs. It gives them a place to be. Caterpillars. Most birds rely on caterpillars to feed their young, and it may seem like a small thing compared to like, hey, we got $500,000 to deal with the styrofoam problem, but it's if we're talking about quality of life, I can't think of anything quite so measurable as that, as the sound of birds, that dawn chorus. And it's something I think we rely on for our mental health more than we realize. And so I think anything we can do to impact those populations are beneficial to the entire community. Miigwech.
Thank you. Public comment? Seeing none. Anyone online?
There are no callers in the queue.
Thank you. Communication from council? Councilperson Garcia?
No, thanks.
Councilperson Brookover?
Thank you.
Councilperson Watson?
No, thanks.
Mayor Pro Tem Gregg?
Yeah, I just wanted to recognize our outgoing city clerk, Jennifer Schuster, who is leaving us for a great opportunity. We're very excited for her to see where she can go with it. And also thanks for your years of service to the city and all of the work that you've put into tightening up our election security.
Yeah, I just want to echo that and just thank you to the entire staff of the clerk's office and the clerk for this previous election. And obviously, we're getting ready for another fire drill, so that makes me sad that you won't be here. Yeah, you're just so excellent. And to everyone else, and just thank you. And just for Herculean, I'll never forget the last election. It'll stick with me forever. And my pride swells every time I think about it and the accomplishment and what East Lansing delivered for democracy and for this area. So you'll ever be endeared to me forever for that. So thank you so much. And I'll speak a little bit to the Crown Castle thing, not much. I'll let them speak for themselves. And yeah, I mean, holy botched rollout. I mean, it's being in private sector and watching certain things get rolled out. I'm hopeful they'll answer their own questions. I'm not going to be an advocate for them, but I can't see the frustration and the need for answers to questions. And I think they'll be the first to admit it was a very poorly executed rollout communication strategy, kind of at every turn. It's been really botched. So I'll hope everyone gets the answers they want through their channels as they're presenting this. And yes, no, council is not sitting kind of inept or idle on the question. It's just we were kind of late to get answers as well. So we'll continue to work with you, and hopefully they'll do work in good faith as well, and we'll get you the right answers moving forward on that. So that's kind of where that sits right now. Next, I wanted to acknowledge just a letter that came out. I think it came out probably to law enforcement as well from Mrs. Beverly Smith regarding her son Michael Anthony Smith, and the 8-year anniversary of his death here in East Lansing. It touched on a lot of different levels, and kind of coming out of the weeks that we've been having and the day that we had today with the schools and the swatting and kind of everything, a lot of fear and trepidation around that. I really kind of stuck with me the fact that, we talk about justice and the need for different things, but what I got from this letter was a mother's need for closure. And I hope as individuals are deciding to make these choices, I'm talking with a mother, and I gave her a call today actually as well, who's still 8 years later looking for closure. And I don't think sometimes our young people, and I'll consider this young man who passed away a young person, understand the magnitude of some of the acts that they're doing and the time that they're in and what's kind of taking place here. But this will stick with me. I also want to compliment, letter was very complimentary from Mrs. Smith to Chief and other members of law enforcement. I won't name them individually. She did, but I didn't ask permission prior to doing that. Just really compliment, and I want to thank our department for keeping her case alive. She's just really thankful for it. She wasn't sure anyone would stay on top of it for her, and keeping hope that she will get closure in the future, that we'll continue to work on this, not allow it to be a cold case, and not allow our son's name to go away. So just hope that's the kind of things we're thinking about as we approach these big challenges, just how difficult the aftermath is of some choices. And that's it from me. City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two items to mention. Follow up on Jennifer Schuster's departure on Friday. She last week when she submitted her letter of resignation, she actually approached me and she wanted to ensure that the city clerk's office was going to be a very continuity and a very continuous, easy, smooth transition from one city clerk to another city clerk. So she asked if I would be entertaining the thought of having a former city clerk come in to help with the transitioning process as we're going forward into finding a new city clerk on a permanent basis. So it was a great opportunity for Jennifer to give that idea to bring Marie Wicks on board, and we are planning on appointing her as this new city clerk on Friday evening after Jennifer finished her tour here. So I appreciate Jennifer's willingness to want to make sure that office stayed continuous and stayed in a smooth transition. So I want to thank her for that. So it was a great opportunity for her to do that. She didn't have to. On a second note, I was over in Grand Rapids this morning with my deputy chief and the captain and our Lieutenant Scott Sexton. We were summoned we had to do a hearing in front of the Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police for an accreditation hearing on our department. So we had 2 years to try and get our accreditation up to speed, and we presented our presentation this morning, and we are proud to say that we were approved unanimously to receive our full accredited for police department for the state of Michigan, and we are excited about that. It's been a lot of work, a lot of hard work, and the commission will come in sometime in the next month or so and present their accreditation to the council. And for the work that we've done, we're excited about it. And basically, from an accreditation standpoint, it just says that the policies and procedures that we are doing in the police department are best practices around the state of Michigan and the nation, and that the council and the commission is holding us accountable for the policy and procedures that we have established. So we're excited about the opportunities to prove them correct, and we move forward with that accreditation. So just want to pass that word on from the police department standpoint.
I think we got to give them a hand for that. I know how much work went into this process.
Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
Thank you. City Attorney's report.
Good evening, Council. I just wanted to briefly address the 5G issue. Just please rest assured, my office or a lot of the staff, we're all very concerned about this. Nobody's certainly sitting on their hands or throwing up their hands in any way. Our concerns at this point is that we're largely preempted by state law from instituting strict limitations, and so to that extent, administration is working with our connections in Lansing to look at a legislative fix that would allow us greater ability and discretion in reviewing applications. Secondly, when we obtain applications, which we have not obtained them from Crown Castle or anyone else for the 5G towers, it's not a rubber stamp in any way. They'll be looked at carefully from a legal aspect as well as a technical aspect and aesthetic aspect to the extent we have that ability. So there's a lot of different pieces in motion, and we'll certainly keep you apprised as we move forward. I'm also speaking to a lot of other cities. There's been some conversation about potential litigation. As of today, I don't believe any cities have been willing to enter litigation with them, and there's likely good reason for that. But working with other city attorneys, we'll certainly make sure that if we do, we'll do it on a unified basis.
Thank you. Next up is item 3. We don't have a special presentation tonight, so we'll just strike that.
You should do something special to acknowledge it.
It's been pretty special already.
All right.
Next up, item 4, the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. We have the following items on the consent agenda for council's consideration. Item 4.1, approve the following appointments or reappointments to board or commissions. A, Chris Wolf as an alternate to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a full term ending December 31st, 2025. B, Beverly Bunning to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a partial term ending December 31st, 2023. C, Nella Davis Ray to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission for a full term ending December 31st, 2025. D, Renee Selmeyer to the Art Selection Panel for a full term ending December 31st, 2025. Item 4.2, approve a resolution recognizing Black History Month. Item 4.3, approve a contract with MKSK Incorporated for the update to the non-motorized transportation plan and authorize the city manager to sign. Item 4.4, approve a contract with Bloom Roofing Systems Incorporated in the amount of $288,453 to replace roof sections D and I of the East Lansing Hannah Community Center and authorize the city manager to sign. Furthermore, approve a project contingency of up to $20,000 for the project. Item 4.5, approve the agreement for the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, Recycling and Organics Infrastructure Grant Award and authorize the city manager to sign. Item 4.6, approve the street closures of all northbound lanes on Harrison Road from Kalamazoo to Michigan Avenue and one southbound lane on Bogue Street from Grand River Avenue to Shaw Lane on Saturday, April 15th, 2023 from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. for the ISO 5K run, walk, and roll race. Those are the items on the consent agenda for council's consideration.
Thank you.
I move the approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yes. I wanted to ask if item 4.3 could be moved to the business agenda just for discussion and some overview, as well as item 4.2, just for some remarks.
Okay, yeah. That's a friendly amendment.
Well, let's ask the city attorney, because I don't think you need to move that. I think all you have to do is say that I want to take off the consent agenda these items.
Okay.
And, well, let's find out what the city attorney says, because maybe I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
so typically we wouldn't have discussion on items that are approved on the consent agenda. We should have probably moved it off when we had the approval of the agenda as an amendment to it, but I think that'd be fine to have a motion to remove them from the consent agenda and place them on the business agenda after item 6.1.
Let me withdraw my motion and substitute instead of motion to approve the consent agenda other than item 4.3, and what was the other one?
4.2.
And 4.2.
Second.
All right, further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, item 5.1, consideration of site plan application to construct approximately 6,774 square foot addition to a building located at 3410 West Road.
Good evening, Council. So my name is Peter Menser. I'm the Planning and Zoning Administrator and currently serving as the Interim Director of Planning, Building, and Development. I'd like to speak with you tonight very briefly just to provide a summary of the item that is on your agenda for a public hearing. The mayor summarized the request and it's pretty straightforward. There's a property on West Road. There's a proposal for approximately 5,500 square feet of additions to the building, one in the northeast corner of the building and one in the southwest corner of the building, and also to install a 1,200 square foot HVAC/chiller accessory building on the site, and also some modifications to the parking lot. This is all in tune with what you've heard, I think, multiple times at meetings over the last couple months to accommodate new tenant to the building, Attesteo. And ultimately to move the current tenants out of the building and for them to occupy the space. So they're making the improvements to the building to accommodate this new tenant. And there are site plans and all the application materials in your packet tonight. The Planning Commission did hold their public hearing on this request on January 11th. They recommended approval at their following meeting on the 25th. The applicant is here this evening to share information on the request. And I've also provided a draft motion to approve the site plan. It's on the agenda item report. I'm not sure what page in your packet, but it's in the middle of the document. I also want to call attention to a letter that was submitted by the applicant to council related to requesting a reduction in the public art fee that's under ordinance 1339. There's a brief explanation of that in the agenda item report, but I want to go over it really quickly just to ensure that you understand what the request is. So the city has this public art requirement, and essentially what it says is that a developer, when a project is proposed here, the developer provide either public art on site in accordance with some standards that are facilitated by our Arts Commission, or that they provide a deposit to the Public Art Fund in an amount equal to 1% of the construction value of the project, to a maximum of $25,000. So the city has been carrying this out since its adoption in, I think, late 2014. And in this case, the applicant's requesting that the total cost, or that the deposit be reduced, and they provide a letter and they can represent that request to you. I won't go into that right now. But what I will say is that the ordinance, this project specifically is subject to the requirements of that ordinance, so they would be subject to either providing the art or providing the deposit. Because it's a renovation of an existing building where the project cost is greater than $2.5 million. So the building permit, it's based on total construction value. So that's something that's submitted when the building permit is submitted. So there has been a building permit submitted to the city for construction of the additions and also the build out of the entire building for the new tenant. The amount in the value that was submitted to the city is $4 million, so that's why this $25,000, or either $25,000 donation or provision of art on the site was required. I did some initial research today and talked to some staff that have been here longer than I, and we're unaware of any instances where this public art requirement was waived or where the fee was reduced. So the applicant can provide more information on that, and I have spoken with the city attorney. It is one of the requirements under site plan. It's one of the standards of review is compliance with that particular ordinance. So if you have any questions about that, certainly either I or City Attorney Chubb could provide more information. With that, the applicant is here this evening to address you. If you have any questions, we're here as well.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Gentilozzi, and I represent the site at 3410 West Road. And before we get too far into the nuts and bolts of the construction side, I'd actually like to introduce the president of Testio North America, so he can tell you a little bit more about the project and what they hope to bring the community. So I'll bring up Roy Schulte from Testio North America first.
Can I just ask procedurally, so are we in the public hearing right now?
Unless you opened it.
Not yet.
Is this part of your presentation, so to speak? And then-
So the way that this typically works is I'll give a presentation, the applicant would address it, and then you go into the public hearing and hear comments from the public and you open and close that.
Thank you.
Glad to reverse the order if we need to.
No, we're fine.
Okay. Good evening, Council. My name is Roy Schulte. I'm the president at Testio North America, Inc. Testio is a German drivetrain testing specialist. We operate over 170 test benches across Germany and China. We have 5 different sites in Germany today. We have 2 in China. And this expansion into East Lansing represents our entry into the North American market. The company has been around over 35 years. It's headquartered in Germany, in the city of Aachen. It's in the western portion of the country. And our intention here in the East Lansing facility is to invest over $25 million. That is including the renovation to the existing facility, but then also the installation of all of the equipment we need to perform our testing. We foresee that over a 5-year period, we'll be able to create 46 jobs, and we intend to be a part of the community for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello again. I guess first, maybe if I can answer any questions that you might have from Mr. Menzer's presentation, I guess we can start with that.
Tell us about why you don't want to contribute this amount of money to the public art.
Let me begin by saying we definitely do not want to short the art for what it is due. However, in this case, we are only submitting a site plan application for a very small piece of a very large project. If we filed a $4 million building permit for only an interior renovation, there would be no public art requirement. If we submitted the work that is before the council today as a separate building permit application and valued it at what the work will actually cost to do the things that are under review today, we would be under the $2.5 million. It would be 7%, or $7,000, I'm sorry. It's about $700,000 to do these additions that we're talking about. Because we submitted the entire project as one building permit, in order to give the city building department the best shot at understanding what we were doing, and rather than playing games with paperwork to say, well, we're gonna file the interior renovation permit and then we're gonna get a different permit for the exterior of the building so that we can short the art requirement, is not what we're here to say. What we're here to say is the project should be considered, the value that is considered in the ordinance is the value of the work that is evaluated before the Planning Commission and then the City Council. So I can understand that this is an odd one, but I can give you maybe a better example. If someone comes before the Planning Commission to move a dumpster surround or add 2 parking spots to their parking lot, and then on the other hand, or at the same time, completes a $5 or $10 million interior renovation of the building, it would be interesting to find the logic that says, well, because you've entered this one tiny piece of work before this body, it bootstraps the entire project into the value of the public art requirement. it isn't to say, and certainly it is not my place here today to prevent this project from moving forward. That's not the hill that I came to die on this evening. What we put forward is number one, we provided the best possible understanding to the city's building department of how the project was going to work. And it's a difficult project. It's complicated from an engineering standpoint. It's incredibly busy from an electrical and cooling standpoint. So it was in the city's best interest to understand the complete scope of the project and to review it in its entirety, to approve it in its entirety, and to comment on it in its entirety. The fact that whatever work is going on inside the building far outweighs what it's going to cost us to provide these minimal additions is sort of us saying, well, we don't have a problem paying the art requirement, we just want to pay what is fair based on what we're considering here tonight. Now, if council takes no action and we're held to the highest number, most certainly we'll fulfill our obligation. I would ask maybe a bit more time to get that obligation straightened out. We've been, in our initial submission, we discussed this, and Peter's been working with us and discussing things with the city attorney to perhaps further the case in one way or the other, and here we find ourselves today at an inflection point, and what I'm saying is that we're fully willing to fulfill whatever your interpretation of the law is, but we certainly would be remiss if we didn't state our case here this evening that the way that it's being considered isn't necessarily in line with how the statute is written. If council said, you know what, you're right, we're just going to put 0.1% on every building permit or 1% on every building permit, it would eliminate this issue in the future. But I cannot imagine that someone would come for a small site plan approval that's tied to a larger interior renovation and see that logic. Perhaps they certainly can do whatever they feel is correct, and they're welcome to make any other donation to the city of East Lansing's art that they would like to. But if we're going by what the statute says, it's our interpretation that it's the work before this body, not any other interior renovation. So I think that's the thrust of our argument. But as I said, that's not the hill that I came to die upon this evening.
Okay, well, I thank you for the explanation. I just want to go back.
Yeah.
So I thought, if I'm understanding this, that the value of the building permit that you filed was $4 million, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now I'm lost because I think, so if it's $4 million, it's $4 million, right?
It is. If I would have taken the approach that I'm going to separate these two building permits, from a building standpoint, we're well within our purview to say, look, we're going to submit an interior renovation project, and then we're going to submit a permit for 2 building additions and an accessory building. The value of that second permit would be significantly less and would be subject to a different value in the art.
I think you're not understanding me.
Perhaps I'm not, sir.
So, not unusual for people not to understand me, so that's okay. So, you are asking us to approve a site plan with a value to you, of $4 million, which you've said to the city.
Mm-hmm.
And your client says it's a $40 million project, is what I thought I heard.
That is.
No, hey, I
my
understand.
apologies.
He's talking about something else.
Yes.
So you got me totally confused. Is it $4 million or is it not $4 million?
I think the answer to that question is it is a $4 million project as far as the building and construction of the facility is
Okay,
concerned.
and that's what we're approving tonight is the $4 million project, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
And if, as I said, you could have been in the position to approve a much smaller project had we submitted as 2 separate building permits. The only reason the $4 million number exists is that was the number that was reported for the entire building permit.
And that's what we're approving tonight?
And that is, yes, sir, that is what you're approving
And
tonight.
the $4 million number is your number?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Only because we only submitted 1 permit.
And
I can appreciate your standpoint,
I understand what you're saying, but we have a $4 million permit application, which you want us to approve tonight. So, thank you.
Well, actually, no, I don't want you to approve a $4 million permit application. I'd like you to approve the site plan as passed by the Planning Commission.
Okay, but the site plan is part of that $4 million process, correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I'll kind of cut to the chase a little bit here. I think, Yeah, and I appreciate the initial words from the CEO and from that part of it, and we'll go back kind of to the beginning with the project coming to us. And I appreciate, if someone I work in pharma and biotech, and I understand this part of it, but sometimes the juice worth the squeeze, the optics of this. For someone, when we started the conversation as being long-term partners and that kind of thing, and then the concessions that were already I don't know. I always wonder how certain things come out and who was in the room when this conversation happened and said, maybe we'll let the sleeping dog lie a little bit, because it feels really small in a way. Like, so I'm just gonna tell you, for East Lansing, since we're just getting started, I want to. The mincing of contracts into someone, really smart people across the street, really smart retired people, someone would pick that apart and they'd bring it to us. And just like you're saying with the towers or whatever else, someone will pick up on it and they'll bring it before. So if we're gonna be in a long-term relationship, just kind of trying to bring your actual initial approach of being straightforward, bringing it in a way that's understandable, and it was admirable in that part of it. And that's probably how we'll have a lot of success together as a community. I think though you could have done things and then broken into threes or all those kinds of, that's fine, but someone here would pick up on it and they'd say, why does this look like this?
Most certainly someone could have, and it actually would have accelerated our process to do it that way.
Yeah.
Just for a number of reasons.
But not
your point
lecturing,
is,
but I'm telling you that's what happens.
no,
here.
sir, your point is well taken, and I'm not here speaking on behalf of Attestio as a partner to the community. I'm here as speaking as part of the development community,
Sure.
who looks at this and looks at how the rule is applied and what it's applied to, and in this case brought up the point. But as I said, it has nothing to do with them and nothing to do with their partnership with the city.
No, and I just want us to get off on the right foot.
Absolutely, sir.
So, okay, I'm good. Yeah.
If I may, in the motion, I believe it's item number 15 regarding the easements. If it is possible, I request that be changed to prior to certificate of occupancy rather than the building permit, just from the standpoint of drafting and reviewing these easements will take beyond when we're expected to receive a building permit, and the effect at the end, I don't believe, would be any different.
Okay, can I ask you a question?
Yes,
about that?
absolutely.
So that easement is between the former occupant of the building and the new building that they're constructing in the outlot?
Yes, ma'am. Not to confuse the matter anymore, the former occupant of the building is the owner of the land, so
Right.
it's essentially saying that we will
He's
assure
going to give himself an easement between the two buildings?
everyone, and we've long held this position with the city, that any development that takes place on that property, the road that currently comes from west to their site and in the future hopefully would continue to Coolidge, would always be easemented for the parcel owners there for use in perpetuity.
So we're not talking about a contested
Oh,
animosity? or
no,
anything.
no, no.
This
In
is
fact,
essentially kind of an easement between two parcels owned by the same
people,
Okay,
correct,
and
yes.
you don't see any problem with that, Mr. Minzer, in
No.
terms of the...
No issue with
certificate of
waiting till
occupancy?
the certificate of occupancy. I threw this condition in for the exact reasons that the applicant stated, so that would be fine with me.
Okay, so that's not going to put us in any problems down the road. Okay, sounds good.
All right, so I just want to make sure I understand this. So I think it's page 44 of 45 or 209 of 212, but there's a number 15, and executed, and you talked to us about this when you were in front of us before, I remember.
a number of times, sir, yes.
An executed shared cross-access agreement between the property owners of 3400 and 3410 West Road shall be submitted, and you just want to change it to prior to certificate of occupancy being issued for the addition?
Yes, however, the language is.
And then it would continue, the agreement shall be reviewed and approved by the city attorney, that stays in there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I simply just don't see a way that we could get
Yeah,
that
we
done.
understand.
Certainly.
I don't think we've opened the public hearing yet.
No.
All right, at this time, I'll open the public hearing.
I'm glad I came tonight because I was a little confused when I read it about the public hearing on the site plan. Just about the reduction in the public art fee, I would, kind of encourage you to reject that request. It does feel kind of bad faith to me, just as a layperson who, admittedly this isn't my area of expertise, but an ordinance is in place. That's part of the city's values and culture, the atmosphere, the standards of compliance that are there. So, there's, this message of not wanting to play games with paperwork. Well, it sounds like this is the complete scope. So is it said like, oh, we don't need all those pieces? It sounds like these are the pieces that are being looked for, and that's what the project is. So, I think I'm sensitive to this because I see like with a lot of developments, say like there'll be like concessions made about often, sadly enough, wetlands, for example, and it's sort of like, are we going to be extorted? Like they'll take their project and leave unless like we fold and like say like, okay, never mind, our standards we came up with aren't that important. So, not to accuse you, but I'm just letting you know that that's what it can look like to people. So if you're entering this North American market, I'd say, well, respect our priorities then. In this case, it's public art. Think of it as a matter of public perception. It's important as a good faith gesture.
Thank you. Public hearing is open. Anyone in the online queue?
There are no callers in the queue.
One final call. All right. With that, we'll close the public hearing.
I move to approve the site plan application from Gentilozzi Real Estate to construct 2 building additions totaling approximately 5,523 square feet in size. Install a 1,248 square foot HVAC chiller accessory building and modify the parking lot at 3410 West Road, subject to the 15 conditions noted in the Planning Commission referral letter dated February 1st, 2023, except item 15 of the referral letter will be changed to read, and I quote, "An executed shared cross-access agreement between the property owners of 3400 and 3410 West Road shall be submitted prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the additions. Period. The agreement shall be reviewed and approved by the city attorney." End quote.
Second. Any further discussion?
So when do we talk about their question about the art piece?
If we take no action, it will go through as our ordinance states.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Further discussion?
We certainly want to welcome you all to East Lansing. I'm excited to have your addition to our northern tier.
Absolutely. Further discussion? All right. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, item 6.1, consideration of board and commission liaison assignments.
Did we want to take the moved business items from the consent agenda? I guess we go after that.
You want to do them first?
It doesn't really matter. I just wasn't
I'm
sure
fine
where they
with that.
landed. I didn't want to lose track of them.
Yeah, let's do that, actually, to keep
Either.
track. I'm going to do that first. Let's do the new item 6.2, approval of contract with MKSK, Inc. for the update to the non-motorized transportation plan and authorize the city manager to sign.
Thanks for coming up, Nicole. I just wanted to hear an overview on it as well. I was reading through it, but I also wanted to hear what we're authorizing to sign.
So this is a contract for an engineering consulting firm to update our non-motorized transportation plan. Our non-motorized transportation plan has been in need of an update. for about 5 years now. And our Transportation Commission, as you know, spent lots of time giving us input to update the RFP based on the criteria and some of the focuses that they wanted to see for the next non-motorized transportation plan. So we went through, we issued the RFP, we received 3 responses. One was MKSK, one was Smith Group, and one was OHM. These were evaluated by myself, one of our senior engineers, and our planning and zoning administrator / interim director of planning, building, and development to be able to get some cross-department views on this. And MKSK was the one that we felt most that met all of the criteria that we indicated in the RFP. You want more specifics, or?
Okay, so the signature is going to mean we enter into contract, and then is there an amount of money?
Oh, yes. So my apologies if I did not put that in there. So the contract with MKSK would be for $78,111.89.
And is that on one of the, I do see it on the one page, it's page 49.
It would be within their contract that they, their proposal that they submitted had the cost included in there.
Okay. So we're approving him to sign the contract for $78,112.90.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
And this is a budgeted amount because we've been meaning to do this update for a couple of fiscal years now.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and since it's an open question right now, what's kind of the impact of the delay in the 5-year period? What is that
No
really?
specific impact. We've been going along, following our current non-motorized transportation plan and doing items that were identified in that one as well. COVID, pushed us along a little bit in our delay, so it was really to be able to obtain the input from the Transportation Commission. We are finally full on our Transportation Commission, so they provided some excellent input to be able to get that to a final product.
Thank you. Should I make the motion then now?
Sure.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve a contract with MKSK Inc. for the update to the non-motorized transportation plan and authorize the city manager to sign.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, I'll do the other consent item. Approval of a resolution recognizing Black History Month.
If you'd like to come up, you can, but yeah. So I just pulled this for discussion because Black History Month is a really important month to me, for our community, and for our nation. Where I'm from, we celebrated Black History Month, and it feels really good to see people that look like me and hear about their history and their contributions to our nation. And what we also know is that some people have also worked hard to erase or not acknowledge what contributions we've made as people of color. And so I just wanted to take a moment to just say I'm always excited when it's Black History Month. It's exciting to walk through Myers and see more things around Black History Month, talk openly with my children about it, and just recognizing how important it is to see people that look like me in various places, and especially also in communities where there are smaller numbers of us and there might be different pictures being painted. And so acknowledging Black History Month, I always say sometimes these resolutions should go straight to the schools, they should be hung up. The students should know from that pride of being in the city of East Lansing to just our history as a nation. And so I just wanted to take a moment to just speak on that. And I invite anybody else that wants to speak on it too as well.
I just think it's just so odd. I think that how much our history doesn't make sense when you don't have all the context to it at all. And I think that's what happened a little bit. And obviously this generation had the advantage that we didn't have of being able to Google things. And they quickly figured out that things didn't fit together or didn't make sense. And there's huge missing blocks of time and who really did this and that, who invented that, and none of this makes sense. So I think that's kind of created what's kind of a nice crisis in people wanting to know our real history, kind of finally, and good, bad, or indifferent. It is what it is, and it is who we are. And I think it's fun to explore that, and I think it's really the only path towards healing and making things better is really acknowledging and understanding the history. It's not here to guilt anybody into anything. It just kind of is what it is. But I think it's in our history somewhere as a path forward. We've come through a lot of stuff in the past, and I think as we revisit it, we will see some, how it rhymes in some places, and then we'll see some ways forward that other people have already done in the past. And I'm really not one for reinventing the wheel. So I like that there's parts of our history that are probably going to tell us the way forward. And I'm looking forward to us tapping into that history, that rich history of all of us. So. No more comments. I'll take a motion. Do we move it?
I would like to make a motion to approve a resolution recognizing Black History Month.
Seconded. Further discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, new item 6.3, consideration of board and commission liaison assignments. And I'll kind of start with this here. I'll start with Councilperson Garcia, just under the presumption that you'll pick up where Councilperson Babcock's former kind of column, and we can start from there. Is that correct?
Yes. With the addition of TCOA,
Yeah.
Tri-County Office on Aging.
Okay.
And then the Police Oversight Commission liaison is in question as well.
I'll say to that position, I'll vacate my position on the police oversight as the police oversight liaison, and inside of my role is the East Lansing Public Schools Intergovernmental Committee. Definitely looked at something that was standing kind of prior to the pandemic and has been kind of put down since then to go in and revitalize the Intergovernmental Committee. Will be one of my priorities, so that's what I'm going to pick that up.
Okay.
It's been in my sphere, but I haven't done anything with it, so that's my fault. And then on my list, if there's anything that can come off, if anyone else wanted to do Tri-County Regional Planning Commission.
I think you're legally mandated to keep that one, Mayor. I think it's the chief of the.
I don't think so. Lansing doesn't, but is it in our? I can look into that one if anyone isn't.
Yeah, maybe Mr. Chubb, can you check on that?
Yeah, I'll have to check on that one.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not needing to hand it off. It's just a neat experience. If anyone else wanted to set up.
That's on the fourth Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it looks like, do both of you attend, or is it a split?
There was some confusion. I have never attended. I don't receive the meeting notices, so
Okay.
I think I had expressed some interest in it, but we never kind of cemented that role, and so the mayor kept it. I think I was actually told that the mayor had to keep it.
Yeah, I think that's incorrect. We'll look into
Yeah.
that one. But I don't have to vacate it, but it does give you some exposure to some things outside and kind of the trail systems and a lot of the Tri-County stuff. And as they're talking, a whole bunch of stuff around transportation and that part of thing, if that's an interest. I don't want to kind of hoard it, but kind of any of us can function on that board just fine. Mayor Pro Tem with.
Yeah, so I've had a personal schedule change, and I have a conflict now on Thursdays, and although it absolutely breaks my heart, and I don't know how I'm gonna go forward, I am going to have to give up my liaison to the Arts Commission, which also means the Art Selection Panel, because they kind of go hand in hand. So I served on that board for 4 years before, or for 3 years, I think, before I was elected, and I've served the entire time that I've been in office. And I have a great love for those earnest weirdos. I don't know. It's great. Anyway, so it would be a fun opportunity, I think, for somebody to step in and find out more about the cultural planning of the community. But unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to attend those meetings any longer.
Anyone has a specific interest in the Art Commission or the Art Select Panel?
I can also kind of explain what they do, if that's helpful.
Who's the staff liaison?
It's Heather Mahano,
Okay.
assisted by our park staff sometimes when she cannot step in. Heather might be having to take a little bit of a leave later this summer, so I think Wendy will be stepping in. Yep. It's a subsidiary of our Parks Commission, and not subsidiary, it's connected to our Parks Department. Our Parks Department is Parks, Recreation, and Arts, and so it's kind of under that staff umbrella.
Can we allow people to review and get back to us on that? Is that appropriate?
Yeah, that's fine. I can attend this month, and I would probably like the opportunity to say goodbye to those guys, because I've really enjoyed working with them. And if anybody has any questions, the meetings tend to be about 2 hours long. The art selection panel is as required, which used to be hardly ever, but has actually, because we do have a lot of public art coming in, mostly because of the % for art ordinance. It is, I would say, like every other month, maybe we have an art selection panel meeting now. And those are scheduled kind of with members' availability, so it's not a standing time.
Do those two go together?
They kind of do, because the liaison really kind of communicates between the two groups. So the Arts Commission budgets for the art and prepares the RFQ for the art, and then the Art Selection Panel is it's kind of restricted to people who are professional artists or who have a strong relation to the arts. So they're kind of the critique panel. It's kind of a quality control issue to ensure that our public art selection is of high merit, basically. But sometimes it's very helpful to have somebody that sat in on that discussion communicate back to the other group, so they do kind of go hand in hand.
In the interest of filling these tonight, I'll volunteer.
Okay. Sounds great. I probably will go this month.
Sure.
If you want to come with me, I can introduce you.
Okay.
When will we talk again about the commissions? Is it
Probably after the next election.
Yeah.
January?
Yeah.
If there's anything on my list that isn't prescribed to the mayor, feel free to strike at it if you have an interest in there. Or we can, if it is prescribed to me in some way or not explicitly prescribed, we could take it to the city attorney. You can look at it and see if other people have interest. From there, I enjoy all of it. I'm not wed to any of it if anyone has additional interest.
Okay. And the East Lansing Meridian Quarterly, that's on my, that's under my name. Is that under anybody else's name? And is that a group that, exists? I haven't been to it.
I think I attended one of those meetings pre-pandemic, but I don't. Well, Meridian called a joint meeting, so I don't think it actually was. I don't know anything about that one.
Which one are you referring to, Dana?
East Lansing Meridian Quarterly.
I don't know if that is either.
I don't know if that's happened since I've been in.
We can look into it and kind of see if, are we missing some quarterly that we should be attending?
Yeah.
I don't know that one.
Didn't get invites. I've been thinking about the Human Rights Commission again, and I was wondering if I could go back to being with them as the council liaison?
The answer is yes, because I have a proposal at the end of this, so, yeah.
Is that a split? Two members, or?
No, I don't think so.
I'm going to step off of it
Oh, okay.
completely. I got something else I'm going to propose here at the end.
And why is the library split?
It wasn't.
Oh, okay. How did that split word get on
Was there no split on it?
the
Take that out?
list?
I don't know.
I don't have any further comment.
Okay, all right. So it's just one person for
It has
this?
been, as long as I've been on the city council, yes.
Okay.
There it is,
All right,
okay.
good to know. So that means you, Commissioner Garcia, you wouldn't, if you were taking Babcock's list, you wouldn't attend the Library Board of Trustees?
Okay.
Let's remove that.
I mean, if you want to split it, I don't care, but I just.
Yeah, I was
Not
just
a-
Never made any
curious.
sense
Yeah.
to me anyways.
Well, I'm picking up a couple,
I think
so-
some of this happened during the pandemic. We're just trying to,
I don't know.
Lisa had a strong interest in it when we were first elected, and so she was kind of the designated alternate when I couldn't go. But then I was no longer the liaison after you were elected, Mr. Burkover, and I think it just didn't get cleaned up.
all right. That's cleaned up. And then,
Thanks.
Mayor, if you're asking, I mean, to the extent I can ever be happy, I'm happy with my current assignments, but I'll also be happy if you want to reassign me to something else. I don't quite know what we're doing here, but
No,
I just want to say that for the record.
it's
so.
informal, honestly, in my opinion, if there's people with interest. I mean, some of the stuff I sit on, I don't have much control over. You know, that's what's designed, so it's kind of amongst others. If there's things that, if you had other additional interest, I don't, you know, as long as they have good representation, I don't mind.
And I guess for procedure here, being the new member, do I reach out to these people? Are they going to reach out to me, or are we going to
Just show up at the meeting.
Yeah,
just show up at the meetings? And be introduced?
Sounds like you're gonna get a warm handoff in the Arts Commission, it looks like, and then,
Okay.
obviously, human rights is not a big deal. Dana's my alternate there, just naturally. I always call her and send her if I can't make it or I'm late, and that's usually the day I am either late or have trouble with that one, so.
Tammy, can I induct you into a little bit of bookkeeping for us? Would you, anything that's been shuffled tonight, could you just notify the staff liaison and have them get in touch with their new council liaison so that we can get the agenda emails and all of that stuff straightened out?
I
That would
have
be-
some chicken scratch.
That would be very helpful. Perfect.
Yep.
Does that sound okay?
Yep, that would be
I'll give you
great.
this too if you can read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then could you give us a color key? Because I can't figure out what the colors mean.
Yeah, I can either, but.
On this one, I
It
think
might need to be narrowed.
the colors for this, the red represents external.
Okay, well, if we could just have a colors key someplace.
Yeah. I don't know what
I don't know
green-
what olive green is,
Yeah,
okay?
that's it.
Okay.
Let's go. All right. Oh, and then in discussion, I'll find out with the city attorney. We'd like to seat a new commission. Mayor Pro Tem and myself have been talking about it. East Lansing Youth Commission. And so obviously I love doing this part. This would engage with my wonderful D&I director. This would include library, parks, and public safety. Kind of what that means and when that means will be kind of what we'll have to work out. We're just giving you guys a heads up. This is something we've been really ruminating over and struggling with, and I hate to do this. I know, sorry, Elaine. But I just think it's this time. This will be for our high school level, similar to what we do with the University Student Commission. I just think it's time to have some conversations, engage that group, and kind of see what the needs are and how we can cooperate as a city. And I think that will work well in conjunction with the intergovernmental committee back with public schools and kind of see if we can lace this stuff back together again. So we'll get you more info on that. I guess I'll hear from the city attorney on what that looks like to stand up a new commission.
So typically, if we're going to assign them some specific duties, we can make it in an ordinance amendment, and we can certainly draft that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first
didn't
part of
either,
that.
yeah.
What did you say, Mayor?
Yeah, we want to stand up East Lansing Youth Commission.
Oh, Youth Commission.
This will be for our high school level, similar to what we do with the University Student Commission. And it would engage DE&I, the library, parks, and public safety, kind of in one unit to kind of work on some of the challenges across functionally there. And I thought it would work well in conjunction with our intergovernmental committee for East Lansing Public Schools as we see some individuals back on that, and that's kind of on their side. But we'll see get that stood back up. We haven't had it stood up in 2 years. So just a couple of things.
What hasn't been in 2 years?
The joint commission between this body and the public school.
Oh, okay, but I didn't catch what you said about the youth commission.
This is new. It doesn't exist.
Okay, so you were facing the other way, so I couldn't.
Yeah, I'm looking to.
So did you ask the city attorney to give us an opinion on that?
Yeah.
What we would need to do in order to found a new commission, which
Okay,
is essentially.
I couldn't
Yeah.
hear what you guys were saying, that's all.
No, that's all
Thank
right.
you.
I'm just fleshing it out right in front of you, so it's fair. Yeah, just a youth commission, and this will be high school age or beyond. I'll kind of take advisory from these different functions, from D&I, library, parks, and public safety. Kind of, we'll talk about it together and see what we can come up with as far as what age groups and that kind of thing, and then move forward from there. I think we're considering a couple liaisons to this board. We flesh this all out later. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, it's been kind of occasionally brought up over the last couple of years as youth programming has continually been a bit of a struggle. So, yeah, I would love to be involved with it if that's possible.
Yeah, I know it's in the infancy stages, but it sounds very appealing to me as well. Being a teacher, a high school teacher myself right now, and having been involved in sports and coaching and all that, I would love to be in something like that. But that's just to let you know on record.
Well, whatever the ordinance dictates will come back to this body for everyone's input, so that will kind of inform what that looks like, what the duties of that commission end up being.
Tony, get to lawyering over there. All right.
Well, yeah, because he hasn't been doing anything for the last month or so.
Yeah.
I mean, he's probably been asleep, so
Earned
it's
it.
nice to give him something to do.
Does the shirt say "earn it"? All right, there's no further discussion. If there's anything that needs to happen, anyone else kind of on boards or commissions, it's fine we can still make adjustments down the road, but at least we have a framework. I'll hand this framework to you, Tammy. Chicken scratch. We'll go from there.
The mayor's very legible handwriting.
Yeah. All right.
We adjourned?
I think, do we require a motion to approve this work, or is that just kind of is what it is?
Yeah, so the only position that we actually appoint someone on other than just as a liaison is as the zoning board of appeals, which Councilman Brookover is on. So I think until we get the document put together, what I would recommend is we put it in the minutes, and when the minutes are approved, it'll be codified.
Perfect.
What just happened?
I think
So
we're
with-
done. We don't need a motion.
So with
A
the
motion to
changes-
adjourn.
Yeah, motion to adjourn is next.
What's this other document you're talking about?
Zoning Board of Appeals is the one.
No, I was just referencing, other than the zoning board of appeals, all the changes that we made tonight that we discussed are just liaisons.
Oh,
so we
the
don't
la-
need to
okay,
take formal
yeah.
action.
Sorry.
Yes.
Thank you all for coming out. Meeting adjourned.